Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today I want to talk with you about growing food in August. I know some of you have been looking at starting a garden, but you may feel like you've missed the window for this year and it's too late. And I want to talk with you today about whether or not that is actually true. Welcome to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast. This podcast is for moms who are parenting differently abled children. Maybe you desire to switch to a more natural lifestyle to improve your family's health, but you have no idea where to start. You're longing for more routines and time, but every time you try to implement those tips that you've spent hours researching, you realize that they don't work for your family dynamics. Hi, I'm Ashley. In this podcast, we will focus on implementing routines, switching to a more natural lifestyle, and uprooting those old mindsets that are keeping you stuck, so that you can plant yourself firmly in the truth that Jesus offers you. Our focus will be on creating small, customizable changes that will build upon one another over time to create real impact in your life. If you want to hear from a mama who has been raising several children with special needs and who knows how important it is to do this in a way that's sustainable and that doesn't add to your overwhelm, then this is the podcast for you. Pop in those earbuds, reheat that coffee for the third time, and let's go. Okay, so when this comes out, I've actually recorded it a little bit in advance, but when it comes out, it will be the 1st of August. And a lot of you may be thinking that the garden season has passed you by and you really wish you had done more or that you had even started at all. And now you feel like it's too late and there's nothing you can do. And I want to say that it really does depend on what zone you're in. So you absolutely need to go and look up what gardening zone you're in. And then the other thing you need to look up is when your first frost date is. And that's really going to determine if you can still grow and what you can still grow. I am in zone 7A and I looked and my first frost date is actually November 2nd. So from the time that this is going to be released, I actually have 93 days left that I can still grow. And there are a lot of things that I can still grow in 93 days. So you're going to want to look for your region. When is your first frost date expected? The other thing that you need to know is that this is absolutely just a guesstimation. It could be sooner, it could be later. And so when you are going to grow in the fall, you are taking a little bit of a gamble because it's possible that first frost date could come much sooner than, for me, it may be sooner than November 2nd. It's possible that I could get it like October 15th, and that's going to cut off quite a bit of time from my expected growth time. So what I like to do with this, and I do this for the most part anyways, but what I like to do with this is to make sure that I'm planting stuff from seed instead of going and getting starts, especially for things that are frost tender. And you can absolutely Google that as well if there's something specific you want to plant. Google and see, is it frost tender or is it frost hardy? If it is frost tender, it's most likely not going to sustain or be able to live through a frost. But if it's frost hardy, it would be able to. And the big thing is, for things that I know are frost tender, I'm going to grow them from seed just because if they happen to die, if the frost comes earlier and it wipes them out, I am out a lot less money whenever I'm just throwing some seeds in the ground. So really, all in all, what you need to know is if you are wanting to try to go ahead and plant, basically the things that you need to know are when is your first frost date and how far away from now is that. So for me, I could just quickly Google from August 1st to November 2nd, how many days is that? It's going to very quickly tell me how many days I have left, understanding absolutely that it's a little bit of a gamble. It's possible it could come sooner than that. It's possible it could come later and I might even get more time. That's a risk I'm okay with taking. I like growing in the fall just for a lot of reasons that I can share later. But then the other thing that you're going to need to know is what is it that you are wanting to grow and how many days does it take from seed to harvest for that to be able for you to get a harvest from it. And there are a lot of things. So for my example, 93 days, there are a lot of things that I could grow in 93 days. There are actually a lot of things that I could grow in about 60 days. And so I want to give you some examples of some of the stuff that I'm going to grow. I will say up front, there are a few of these things that I will have, by the time you listen to this, I will have already started them from seed in my house. It's a little hot to get some of them to germinate. I'm just starting them from seed and then I will let them get a little bigger and then I will transplant them. Probably, I'm not quite sure yet, but I will share what those things are that I'm starting from seed. But some of the things that I think of would be like radishes. A lot of those, it's 20-ish days from the time you plant it until the time the radish is ready. So you could get several rounds of radishes in Radishes are really fun. I like them roasted, and there are a ton of cool varieties of radishes. You should definitely go check out Baker Creek or M.I. Gardener for all of their fun varieties of radishes. Another thing that I think of are beans. Beans, it depends on the variety, but a lot of them are like 55 days around that time until they're ready for harvest. So you could get quite a bit off of beans as well, especially a bush bean where it's all basically going to be ready at one time. That might be a great option, especially if you only have about 60 days left and you're afraid you're going to be pushing it. Where a pole bean is going to keep producing as you pull the beans off, that bush bean really is going to get all of its harvest at one time. So doing like a bunch of bush beans might be a good option for you as well. Snap peas. I love snap peas. My kids love them as a snack. So that's something that I'm going to try, knowing up front it's a little bit longer, so it might be a little bit of a risk, but we're going to try. Another thing is there's tons of herbs you could grow. And if you have not been able to start them yet, you feel like it's too late, or some herbs like cilantro and lettuce that's not an herb, but things that don't do well in the heat, you could go ahead and get started so that as the temperatures get a little bit cooler, you can still continue to get a harvest off of them. So I do like to do that with like cilantro and lettuce, the things that tend to bolt in the heat. The other thing that I like would be things like basil. You could also do like parsley. It does take a little bit of a longer period of time, so that could be a little bit of a risk, but it's something you could try. You could try things like chives, green onions. Pretty much there are a lot of different herbs that take about 60 days. And so you can look at the specific herbs you would like to grow and then see how long does it take for them to be ready to harvest, and see if you have what seems to be the appropriate amount of time to at least have a chance of them coming to harvest. Another thing that I think of, and these are things that I will start inside. So more of like your cole crops like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. And then I'm going to try growing rutabagas this year again. I tried last year in my fall garden and they were just a major flop. We actually had a mole come and decimate. I put them in my in-ground beds and a mole came and just absolutely decimated the beds. And so I lost that option. By the time it had happened, they were too far gone. There was not enough time. So I am going to try rutabagas again this year, and we will see if I can get a harvest from those as well. But there are just so many different things. Cucumbers are another one. You are going to have to look at the specific varieties with those, but tomatoes, there are some tomatoes that it takes 60 days as well. So just look at what you have or the seeds that you have options to get and see if there are some that you could work within the time that you have left. All of this is just to say, don't give up. There's still enough time. Now, there are some people who are going to be in the much further north climates who they're going to struggle with that. Or people who are possibly in another country. You may have different temperatures than us. That's why it's very specific to your region, but there are so many of you who still have plenty of time to grow food. And I just want to encourage you that if you feel like you wanted to get started and you didn't do it, go ahead and start. Go ahead and try something. Don't count yourself out for this season, and just go ahead and let it be a time of just a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of testing and understanding, very much so that it may be that everything gets taken out by the frost, but it's just a learning experience for you. It's helping you to practice your skills in growing things, and hopefully you will be able to harvest some delicious food for your family as well. I would love to hear from you if you are planning to grow some food this fall. Please share with us. Come over to our free Facebook community. It's linked below in the show notes. Share with us what it is that you are planning to grow, and also just keep us updated on how it's going. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you back next week. Hey, before you go, if you found value in today's episode or you learned something new, would you take a minute to share with someone else that you know would be blessed by it? I would also love it if you would leave me a review. This lets me know that you're enjoying the show, and I love hearing from you. You can connect with me further over on Facebook or Instagram. Until next time, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, and be constantly in prayer. Romans 12:12.